Hey guys, welcome back to the simple farmhouse build in SketchUp. In this series, I'm showing you exactly how I go about planning for a new build by building everything exactly the way I would in real life, but in SketchUp, virtually on the computer. This allows me to get all exact measurements, identify issues that may come up during framing or rough-ins or anything like that, way before they're going to happen on the actual job site. I can come up with solutions for those before we even start building, which is really nice. I also am able to get exact measurements for everything, which allows me to calculate nearly exact material needs. So that when I'm ordering materials or when I'm budgeting, I know exactly what my costs should be for this build. So, like I said, I usually do this with every build that I go through. This one's going to be a simple little farmhouse style build. It could be either a spec build or like a short-term rental. I tend to build in the mountains, so a lot of times we're looking at things as a possibility of a short-term rental. If that doesn't work, then we can always go to a spec home or a long-term rental, something like that. But yeah, this one in particular, this floor plan I showed it a little bit last time. It's about a 1,600 square foot floor plan. I think like 1,650, something like that. We are making a few minor changes along the way. That's the other reason that I like building all this in SketchUp before I actually go about building it for real, is I'm able to make any changes or identify any changes that I want to make to the floor plan ahead of time. So in this case, for this particular home, it's got this little bump out on the side where it has the fireplace for the living room in there. Or no, sorry, the bathroom. That's a different plan I was thinking of. On this one, it's a bump out where the bathroom is on the main floor. Let me go to the floor plan here. So you can see it's got the bathroom with the tub essentially being inside that bump out. I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, it adds a little bit of depth and whatever architecturally to the side of the building. I'm not real concerned. The side of the building, the way that I like to do them, they're usually going to be covered up with landscaping, bushes, trees, that sort of stuff anyways. And it's going to be a lot cheaper for us just to build that as a flat wall. So that is one change that I've already made. We're going to go ahead and instead of doing the bump out with the foundation here, this is going to be a straight wall. So it's going to come all the way out to that to the same distance that bump out goes out to, which is a total of 61.5 feet from one end of the building all the way to the other with that bump out. So we're going the full 61.5 feet from corner to corner. So this is all going to be a flat wall, and that means we're going to have a little bit more space on the interior, which is always nice. And it's going to be a little bit cheaper to do the foundation like that, just because you don't have these corners that you're having to deal with. Again, simpler for framing floor, simpler for framing the walls, simpler for just about everything. So you're reducing your costs there by actually going a little bit bigger, which is really nice when you can pull that off. So with that said, last time we were doing this, oops, wrong one. So last time we got this far. I basically showed exactly what I do for the foundation here to get started. Okay, with just like in the real world, when you're building a house virtually, I think it's best to start with the foundation because everything gets built on top of the foundation. So that's what I always start with. We got our footings in here, as you can see. The garage level is going to be a different level than the rest of the home because this is a basement foundation. We're doing 10-foot ceilings here. So you can see we got our foundation walls. We have the slab on the inside for the basement. We also have the slab in the garage. The garage has its own little stem wall here, its own footing, and then of course the slab there. We didn't model out any of the rebar. I may come back and do that later. But when I'm just getting started on build, getting going like this, I'm trying to get an idea of what the rough layout is going to be. I don't want to spend a lot of time going into details like rebar placement and whatever else you might have, anchor bolts and all those kind of things. Those kind of details are best done towards the very end once you know for sure it's set in stone what your foundation layout is and all that sort of stuff, because this still might change. And a perfect example of that is that so far we do not have the bump out in the back, or I guess a bump in for the in the foundation for the back patio. So let's go back to the floor plan here. You can see right here they have this wall coming all the way across here. This is going to be a little stem wall that they do, and then all this was going to get poured in for a slab for their back patio. I'm not going to do a slab patio. As you can see, we are building this up higher out of the ground. The grade level is going to be essentially where the garage slab is. So our main floor level is going to be a good 4 or 5 feet above grade, right? So I'm not going to do a poured concrete patio in the back. Instead, it's most likely going to be a deck that I will actually extend out further than what it shows on the plans, and make that a nice covered porch or deck area with a gable roof over top. So we'll work on all that later, but we still need to fix this little foundation part for the floor plan. We do need to follow this part that bumps in, because that's essentially the exterior wall of the home. So we could switch that around and add some more interior space here. We would lose the patio there. I kind of like it. I like having a little inset patio area on builds. I think it's a nice feature to have. So we're going to keep it, but we do need to fix our foundation wall to include that little bump in. So we need to get our measurements. First things first, let's go off this corner over here. So we're going to come over 12'2". I hope you guys can see that okay. It's a little small. Let me zoom in a bit. I think that's better. We can go in a little bit more there. Okay, so you can see I got my measurement here on the plans, 12'2". So I'm going to come in 12'2" from the outside corner, and that'll go to the outside corner of the foundation wall where it bumps in. So let's go back to our model. We're going to pull out tape measure by pressing T. I'm going to measure from the exterior wall. We're going to come over 12'2". And if you didn't see the first episode of this series, go back and watch it. I explain a lot of how to use the simple tools like your tape measure, line tool, a lot of the stuff that we used in order to build this foundation and to get it started. I explained how all that works in the first episode, so I'm not going to go into as much detail with that here, explaining how it all works and everything. So I was going to say there's one other thing. Yeah, let me hold off on that. Okay, so we're going to now, let me go back to the plans. Let's just take, so 20'4", we need to come over 20'4" across, and that's going to be the interior dimensions for that little bump in. So what did I say, 20'4", right? Let me see. So 20'4". Now the depth of it, or the distance that we're coming in, is going to be 6 foot from the outside of the foundation wall up here to the outside of the foundation wall down here. So we can go ahead and do the 6 feet there. From the outside of the foundation wall, we come down 6 foot. And that's going to give us our dimensions for this little bump out section of the wall. Now, in order to actually change this, we're going to come in here, hit the line tool. We're going to connect it to our marker that we put on there, our reference line. And then we're just going to follow the blue axis down, so you can see it snap to the blue axis because the line turned blue. And then we're going to bring that all the way down to the footing, actually, is what we want. So I don't remember if it's default or not. So you can see I can hide the slab and actually the footing as well. It'll hide everything that I'm not currently editing. So right now I'm editing the foundation wall because I double clicked on it to go into edit the foundation wall. You can tell because if I hit P for push pull, it highlights that whole wall surface, meaning that I'm editing the wall itself. So what we're going to do here, I don't remember what the default key bindings are. I may have changed them slightly, but mine is set to Control Q. It's for hide. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I never changed these things. I think I set this up when I first started. Hide is H, but that's not what I'm looking for. So let's go to File. Do we have like preferences or something somewhere? Okay, one second. Let me see if I can find it, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I found it. It's under Window for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, Window, Preferences, Shortcuts, and then you want to go to, I believe it's under View, if I remember right. So View. Maybe it wasn't View. No, maybe not. Let's go back up to the top. Okay, 1 second. I'll find what the option is and then I can show you. Okay, so you can see right here, it's view, component, edit, hide rest of model. Because you do have the options to just hide, which by default I believe is H, and then unhide is Control H, I believe. So you can hide and unhide specific things that you select in the model. But what I find is just faster and usually easier is to hide everything else except for the what you're currently editing. So that's what this command here is for: view, component, edit, hide rest of model. You can see I assigned it to Control Q. So anytime I hit Control Q, it'll toggle that option. So let's go ahead and hit OK there. So right now I am currently, well, let's go ahead and get back out. So I hit escape. I'm all the way back out to the main model, so I can select the different, I have the slab, the foundation wall, whatever. So double click on the foundation wall. Now I'm editing the foundation wall. I hit Control Q. It hides everything else except for the foundation wall. Now the only problem with this is I made my reference marks out here in the main model outside of the foundation wall. So in order to see those marks, I need to place the start of the line there before I hide everything. Now I'll hide everything, bring it straight down following the blue axis. Okay, and then unhide so I can see the reference marks again. I'm gonna do the same thing over here on the other side. Hide everything, snap it to the blue axis. Where is it? There it was. Whoa, way over there. Okay. Sometimes the camera perspective can make things look a little wonky, so it could take a second to find the axis that you're trying to snap to. But anyways, let's go ahead and do that. Now we unhide everything. And we now have our exterior of the concrete wall for our little alcove that we're doing here. So what I need to do then is come 8 inches over from that, right? So let's come 8 inches over on the red axis. 8 inches over, because that's the thickness of our concrete wall. And we're now going to add another line, and we're still editing inside the foundation wall. So if I press P, you can see it highlights those, meaning that I'm editing the foundation wall itself. So I'm going to do a second line on each side. Oops. Let's undo that. I forgot to hide everything. And this time I made the reference lines inside the foundation wall model itself, so I don't need to unhide in order to see those reference lines. Now I can unhide everything. We are going to now use our push-pull tool. You can see that because we divided those sections up, we can now pull just the sections that we want there. So I'm going to pull it out to there. Now that is the exterior of the wall, so we need to go another 8 inches to get all the way to the interior, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Now when I pull this one, I could type in the measurements just like I did on the other side, or what I can do is put the cursor over here on this one, and you can see it's going to bring that one out to match whatever the distance is for the face of this one where I'm putting the cursor. You can also put it on the edge. It'll match that edge. But anyways, it's just a way to speed things up a little bit when you're trying to match the same distance as something else, right? So we click on that, and now we have both of our bump ins from the foundation wall there. So we need to do one more. We're going to go 8 inches here for the thickness of the wall, and we're going to press L for our line tool. It's going to snap on right there. We're going to hit Control Q in order to hide everything else, bring it all the way down to the bottom of the foundation wall. That's very important because that's what completely divides the sections and allows you to grab just that section with your push-pull tool. So now we're going to pull that out, and again we're just going to go straight to the edge or the face, if you want, of this piece of foundation wall here, so that it will match that. So now we have our complete foundation wall for the inner part. We can go ahead and delete this line on here because that's not needed anymore. I always just go ahead and look for other little lines that are left over that I don't need anymore to delete, because the cleaner the model is, the easier it's going to be to work with going forward. When you get a whole bunch of random lines and stuff in your model, further down the road, it could become more complicated for editing things and adjusting things and whatnot. So that was the only, I kept going when I should have stopped. Let me zoom out a bit. When you get something like that and you're too close, just zoom back out, and then you can move the perspective back to where you want it. So now that we have that, the other thing we need to do, so let's pull our line tool out because we're still editing the foundation wall. So line tool, we need to remove this part of the wall out here. So we're going to follow the green axis from each of these points at each corner. That's going to separate that section out, and then we can just lower that on down. Now, what I think I'm actually going to do here is we're going to leave this as a stem wall. Well, let me think. Would that be better than doing piers? No, we're not going to leave it because I am probably going to go ahead and build it with a deck that extends out like another 12 feet or so from that exterior wall. So we're going to go ahead and remove this completely. Do not need it. We're going to go ahead and... So we went all the way down to the bottom, but it left a little bit there for some odd reason. Usually when you go all the way down, it will remove it. But anyways, we can also remove it just by hitting spacebar for our cursor. Click on one of the edge lines there. We will delete that. You can see it's only deleting the cutout part, so we're okay there. Same thing with the other line. It automatically deleted the face area between the two lines once we deleted one of the edge lines, right? And so now all we have to do is delete the other edge line, and that section is completely gone. And now, just like before, I'm going to clean up this model a little bit. Wow, if I can get my cursor in there, and just delete these lines as well because we don't need those. Okay, so now we do have the alcove built in for the back porch area. And then let's just go ahead and delete these reference lines. We're not going to need those anymore. Hit Control Q to unhide all the rest of the model that we still had hidden. And then I'm just going to click outside of the foundation wall. We're going to go ahead and delete these. We don't need any of these anymore. And there we go. The slab is the only thing left. Well, and the footing. So now we got to edit those. So let's go ahead and go into the slab by double clicking on it. And again, I'm just going to take the line tool and I'm going to follow the outline of this alcove. Click onto the corner. I can't tell if it's getting in the corner or not. I'll zoom in a little bit. There we go, right there. And then bring it out to there to connect. And then all we have to do is come over to this side, press P for push pull, and push that down. When it says offset limited to -4, that means you've hit the bottom, and it should just go ahead and it removes it as soon as you click on that. So now that is completely removed. We can look at just the slab and you can see that it's no longer there. So we're good on that. Now the footing, we do need the footing to come out. So let's double click on the footing to go in. This needs to come out 8 inches because we had 8 inches of exposed footing on each side of the foundation wall. So we're going to come out 8 inches on both sides. And then we're going to use our line tool just like before and draw our line across there. Same thing right here. Draw the line across. P for push pull. And we're going to, wait a second, why didn't it remove it? See, it's weird. Sometimes it offset limited, so it should remove it, but it did not. So we're just going to do what we did before. We're going to delete, and we still have all the rest of the footing there, which is perfect. Now, we need to bring this out. So what we're going to do, we know that these footings are 24 inches wide. So from the end here, I'm just going to go 24 back, and we're going to put a line right there. And then we're going to push pull. We're going to pull that out. So we want to go all the way to the edge, the inside edge of the foundation wall. And then we're going to go another 8 inches past that, right? Okay, and there we go. And then let's go ahead and do another reference line straight across here on the green axis, and we're going to go 24 inches again. Hit L for our line tool, draw the line there, and then P, push pull. Okay, and we need to bring this all the way down to here, and then another 8 inches, just like before. Okay, and now we already have our line here, so I'm just going to use that same line. We're going to do our line tool coming down from that to give us our 24-inch wide footing there. And then we're just going to bring it push pull all the way to the edge of this one by just clicking it onto that the edge of this footing over here, basically. You can also turn the camera angle around and you could tell it to go to the face of that footing, and it's just going to match where that is. and you can see it automatically merged with that footing. So now we hit spacebar for our cursor. We're just going to select that line, delete, and I think there's just one more line somewhere, maybe not. Nope, that's it. So now we've got the footing is complete under that section of wall just like we wanted it. At this point, we're going to remove our reference lines because we don't need any of these anymore. And there we go. So we've got the footing and the slab and the foundation wall all completed. We're ready to go. Now, last time I mentioned that the foundation height is going to be 10 feet. And I want to match the height to where I can use pre-cut 10-foot studs. Yes, the basement slab probably won't be exactly flat. You may have some dips in a couple places that throw you off 1/8 of an inch or even 1/4 inch maybe in some spots. So you won't be able to use pre-cut studs everywhere if you want to keep the top of your wall perfectly level. But for the most part, and because this is assuming a perfect environment, since we're doing it virtually on the computer, right? So in this case, we're just going to go ahead and measure out for pre-cut 10-foot studs. Now, if you're not familiar with pre-cut studs, basically they're pre-cut to make the total wall height or your ceiling height a certain length, right? So there's 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, probably even more 12 foot pre-cut studs. I don't know that I've ever seen 12 foot. There might be, but 8 foot, 9 foot, and 10 foot are fairly common. Now these studs are not measured to, like, a 10-foot pre-cut stud is not going to be exactly 10 feet. An 8-foot pre-cut stud is not going to be exactly 8 feet because they're going to reduce it a little bit. They're going to take 3 inches off for your top and bottom plates. Now this does become a little bit of an issue because you technically have, and I'm actually not sure if so you have 3 plates, right? You have one bottom plate and a double top plate, essentially, or typically. So that's a total of 4.5 inches, right? So you should be taking off about 4.5 inches, and then they're also accounting for like drywall, flooring, and that kind of stuff. You want your drywall to be up off the floor a little bit, right? You don't want, when you lay a sheet of drywall up on the wall, it's not going to be tight down to the floor. You'll have a gap at the bottom. So it's accounting for all that kind of stuff. But basically, manufacturers have come up with an ideal measurement for doing pre-cut studs for certain ceiling heights, right? And if you're not familiar with what those measurements actually are, you can always just go and Google it to find out. Let's just pull this up real quick. And so we're going to type in 10-foot pre-cut stud. And you could probably just go with that. You could also put in length if you want to know the actual length. What is the length of a 10-foot pre-cut stud? 2x4. It's same thing for 2x6, 2x4, whatever, regardless. It's going to be 116 5/8 inches. Okay. So that comes out to be, what is that? 9 foot 8 5/8. So 9 foot 8 5/8 plus 4.5 inches, that's going to give you an extra inch over 10 feet, right? That's going to be 10 foot 1 if I'm doing my math. Well, 10 foot 1 1/8, whatever. So you can see there, if you're including the 3 plates, it's not going to come out to exactly 10 feet, but you're also getting that extra inch of space, like I said, to have a gap for your drywall at the bottom, and also at the top where the ceiling is, your ceiling drywall overlaps the wall drywall that's going to butt up underneath it, right? So you got to have an extra 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch there. So they're giving you a 5/8 for that, I assume. So basically everything measures out exactly to where you can throw, once it's all framed with these pre-cut studs, you can throw a full 10-foot sheet of drywall up on that wall from top to bottom, stood up vertically. And it's going to be exactly the right height to where you don't need to cut any drywall. You don't need to add in any little thin pieces, anything like that, right? When you're doing all your finishing. So that's the reason for using the pre-cut studs. Look up and see what the pre-cut stud length is if that's something that you're wanting to use to simplify everything. It will make the labor a little bit cheaper on building the home. Everything's going to be quick and easy, and there's not going to be a lot of time custom fitting everything, right? So it's kind of an important little thing that you can do there. Now, 116 inches, so 9 foot 8, 5.5, right? I think when we actually did our wall, and we want to measure from the top of slab, right? Because that's where you're going to be framing on top of. So right now we have 8 foot 10 and a half. That is not even close to where we need to be. So we're going to edit that, push pull. Oh, I should probably put a reference mark first, huh? So we want to go up, what did I say? 9 foot, we'll just do 116 and 5/8. Okay, so that's going to give us our stud height. And then on top of that, so let me go to that first. So that raises the whole thing up to our stud height. That's fine. Now we, on top of the stud height, we also want to make sure that we have the room for our plates, right? So we're going to have, was I doing a 10 foot on this or a 9 foot ceiling? I feel like we were actually doing a 9 foot ceiling, weren't we? Because now that I look at it, 10 foot is going to be pretty tall. I think we were doing a 9 foot ceiling. I'm just thinking 10 because that's what the build I'm currently doing is. So let's go to a 9 foot stud. What would that be? Let's just go ahead and put in length, and it'll tell me the exact length. 104 and 5/8. Okay. So let's go 104 and 5/8. So let me hit Control Z. We're going to back up a little bit here. Take the reference line away. Take out our tape measure by hitting T. From the top of slab, we want to go up 104 and 5/8. Okay. And then from there, we need to add in, we're going to add in 3 inches for our plates. Okay. And I'll explain why in just a second. But let's go ahead and go up. So let's do this. P for push pull. We're going to lower the wall down to this line to start. Now from there, we're going to come up 3 inches. Okay. Now the reason for that is because we're going to have a sill plate that sits on top of this wall. And then that's on top of that sill plate are going to be our floor joists. So our ceiling is going to be on the bottom of those floor joists, which means you're going to have an 1.5 inch, 1 2x material, or your second top plate is going to be above the concrete wall, right? Because it's going to be at the same level as that sill plate, essentially. So we're only going to bring it up another 3 inches from that. And then let me think. So oftentimes when I'm doing you kind of have to think about all these things when you're planning this ahead of time, right? We could come back and adjust all this later if we need to. But essentially when I'm doing ceiling drywall in a basement, I like to do strapping on the bottom of the floor joists and then attach the drywall to that strapping. I don't really like putting drywall directly on the bottom of floor joists for various reasons: noise, cracking, running electrical or whatever. It becomes a lot easier when you have that strapping there. So there's a few different reasons why I like to do that. But that strapping is just 1x material, usually 1x4 or 1x3. So it's going to be 3/4 inch thick, right? Now that's going to lower that ceiling another 3/4 inch then. So let me think about that for a second. So we're adding that to our height as well. Yeah. So really, I would want to add a 1x plate to all of our top plates. So basically a third top plate in order to match that if we're trying to continue using pre-cut studs, right? I'm just trying to do the math here to make it all work to where we can use pre-cut studs in the basement. We're not going to worry about that today. Let's do this as just a simple build. We're not going to go complex with anything like doing the strapping for the drywall on the ceiling. Again, that's probably the better way to do it. And if you're going to, then you probably want to plan ahead for that. And the way that I would do that is by having your walls built using your pre-cut studs. You'll have your 3 plates, right? A bottom plate and 2 top plates. And then on top of that double top plate, you're going to add one more 1x top plate. So that then when you're doing your ceiling and everything, your ceiling gets dropped by 3/4 inch because you're doing 1x strapping there. And that way everything still works out math wise so that your sheet of drywall fits on the wall. To keep things simple for this model though, I don't think I'm going to do that. If I change my mind later, we can always come back and change it. So I'm just going to leave it right where it is right now because that's where we want the wall height to be in order to use those 9 foot pre-cut studs. I forgot to remove this reference mark, so we're going to remove that real quick and then back out of the foundation wall. So now we should have exactly the height that we want there on the foundation wall. Let's take a look at our plans. We haven't looked at those in a minute. And make sure we're not missing anything else important. We do have this the front porch area. They were going to do the same thing as the back porch area where it was just going to be a concrete porch. So they did a little stem wall under that. Because of how high up ours is with the model that we're doing, where is it? Right here. You know, our entryway is going to be, like I said before, 4 or 5 feet above grade. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do a concrete porch. So we're probably going to frame it as a deck, a little landing here at the front, covered area. So it's all going to be framed out with lumber instead of concrete. So I don't need that little stem wall section in the front there. So we're not going to worry about that too much. Everything else looks okay. If you have questions about any of the details on the foundation, though, as you're going through designing it, you, of course, can always come over here and look at your details. And these details are going to show you exactly how they're basically showing you cross sections of the foundation in different places to show you how that's going to be designed. So you can see here they're showing 3 rows of rebar in all of your continuous footings, which are the just your main footings going all the way around the building. So you're gonna have 3 rows of continuous rebar that goes inside that. If you don't know how foundations are built, go check out my live stream called A Guide to Poured Concrete Foundations, I think is what I called it. Something like that. But I cover all the basics of foundation, how they work, where the rebar is placed, and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it's got this one that keeps it all pretty simple. It's basically the same footing design for all the footings, except for the interior footings, which is this top one that you see up here. I mentioned last time we're going to worry about that soon, but we're not doing the interior footings just yet because I don't know what the layout is going to be for the interior. As far as their suggestions, this is their layout for the interior of the basement, right? Or where they're going to put the footings for the load-bearing walls in the basement. I don't like that. I looked at it for a few minutes trying to decide if this gave me anything I could work with as far as a layout, like an actual basement layout. And it really doesn't. I would say you could have, this could be like a closet or a bath. I'd probably make this a bathroom up in the top corner. If we were going to follow this layout, right? This would be like a bathroom up in the corner because you have the plumbing from the bathroom above already. That's going to be running through down from above. So you can easily add in a bathroom right there. I would probably have all this space open and you'll just have to put a beam in across there because that's going to be carrying a load from the joists. But you could have all this open as like a game room area. And then come over down here. I'd probably do a room here, have a hallway kind of right about here. You could have another room here. You could either do a bedroom or do like a media room right here, right? And then this hallway comes all the way down the hall here, turns the corner, bedroom. You could have another bathroom here because the bathroom above gives you easy access to the plumbing, right? And that's basically more or less the layout that I would go with. But the placement that they have for a lot of these walls and everything, I don't know that that's exactly what I would want to do. So we're probably going to change it a little bit. I haven't really decided yet, but we'll get into that. In fact, we'll probably get into that right about now, because I think that's really the next thing that we need to work on here and figure out is what our layout for the basement really is. So right now we have a blank canvas, essentially. I think I mentioned last time you could have this designed in such a way that you have no load-bearing walls on the interior. Most likely because this span, I mean, for most of this, you're spanning, what, 25, and then over here at the end, it's going to be your longest span, 32 feet. You want to be using joists that can span 32 feet clear, meaning there's no supports in the middle there. So in order to get that out of a floor joist, you're going to need to go with something like an engineered floor truss. These are, you know, the open web floor trusses. You've probably seen them. It's going to be, I'm guessing just offhand, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing based on my experience, that'd probably be a 24-inch truss height for those floor trusses. So that's going to add 2 feet to your subfloor, or it's going to add about a foot to your subfloor over using something like I-joists with load-bearing walls in the basement. So you're going to add like another foot of height to your subfloor assembly. And then, so you'd have to account for that on the outside because we already have a pretty tall wall here since we're going with a 9-foot foundation wall. And it is going to be about roughly half of it exposed above grade. Do we really want to add another 2 feet up here on top of the wall to get to the front door? Or do we want to keep it at just a foot? I kind of like the idea of just keeping it a foot. We are going to have walls in this basement. It's not just going to be one big wide open basement. So there's no reason really to do clear span with the joists. We can easily, since we're going to be splitting this up into rooms anyways, we can easily do some interior load bearing walls here. So basically we need to figure out what we want for the layout though. Now I think where I would start, the one thing that's not going to change regardless of what we decide, I mean, it could change, but I'm not going to change it, is the stairs. The stairs are where they are. They're not going to move. We're basically going to follow this. I could make them a little wider, I suppose, or something like that, right? But I think they're already... I'll have to look and see how wide they are currently. But yeah, you really don't have much room. I guess you could bump this separation wall between the garage and the house out a little bit if you wanted to make the stairs bigger. That's a possibility. We'd have to move the whole foundation wall though for that. So, you know, definitely something you want to plan ahead of time and not decide at the last moment. But that is a possibility. We could do that if we wanted to. Now let me go back to the plans real quick. I want to see, what does it say? Does it tell me what the stairs width is? It shows 4'4" right here. That 4'4" is from the interior of this wall to the exterior foundation wall. That's the only measurement it gives me for the width of the stairs, huh? So 4'4" and then subtract 8 because we have an 8-inch thick foundation wall, right? So that's gonna put you at 3'8". That's not bad. That's yeah, that's not too bad. Because once you have your drywall on there and everything, you're going to be about 3.5 feet. 4 foot wide is really nice for stairs, but that does get pretty wide. So I think I'll be content with a 3'8". So let's go ahead and put that in. That's going to be our width from the interior foundation wall to the interior of the stairwell wall. So we're going to come in here, tape measure tool. And I'm going to do these measurements on the slab, basically. Not in the slab, so I'm not double clicking on the slab to edit in it, but I'm just going to go and mark these measurements. Let's go ahead and turn the camera around this way. That's a better angle, isn't it? When I'm working by myself, I'm used to looking at things from all kinds of weird angles. But for you guys watching, it's probably a little better if I keep it right side up like that, right? So we're going to come out from that, what did I say, 3'8". Now, that should be the framing, right? That I would imagine that's not including drywall with that measurement. So let's go ahead and design it that way. So that's the interior of the wall, and then of course it's going to be a 2x4 wall construction. So we're going to come over another 3.5. That's the outside of that wall. Now, does it tell me how long the steps are here? 17 equal risers. It says 11'8" from the interior to the exterior of the foundation wall, right? No. Sorry, the 11'8" is just the stairs, so to the bottom step. So from bottom step to top step, which is counting as the interior of the wall there, you have 11'8". Then you also have the 4'10" from the exterior foundation wall there to the bottom step. So let's go ahead and do that first. The 4'10" there for the bottom landing essentially area. So it needs to go from the exterior. So I'm going to click over on this side, and then we'll measure. Oh yeah, it's not the okay, we'll go. What did I say it was? 4'10". 4'10". So minus the 8 inches, we're going to go 4'2". 4'2". Okay, that's where the bottom of our steps are, and then the steps themselves were what? 11'8". Okay, so 11'8". That's going to be the top of our steps. Will end up right there. And so we wanted 3.5 for our 2x4 wall. That's going to go right there. Now we will be verifying this later on when we actually build the steps, the stairs. We'll verify that that's actually the correct length. I'm assuming it's using standard stair for, well, I think it actually tells us on there. Let's see. 17 equal risers. No, so it doesn't tell us what the tread depth is. Maybe it's somewhere else in here. Stair data. 10-inch treads. Okay, so you have 10-inch treads. So we'll use this info, and they're going with a 16-inch subfloor though on this. Really? It seems that seems like a lot. Like I said, typically you could use 12-inch I-joists for something like this, and it would work out just fine. Depending on, but I'm assuming, you know, our spans are gonna be like 15-foot spans at most. Probably more like 12-foot spans. We'll figure that out later. I'm going to get into the floor framing and how I figure that out when I'm designing this. If it's not already called out by your engineer or the architect. Although in this case, I don't know that I would trust what the architect is doing. They're also using a lot of materials in this plan, or methods in this plan, that I don't plan on using. For example, the roof is all hand-cut rafters, like you can see right here. I'm just going to use engineered roof trusses. Way faster to install, way more precise and accurate as far as measurements and everything. Oh, excuse me. So, you know, I'm not doing hand cut rafters. If you did want to do hand cut rafters, this is showing you how you would do it, more or less from the architect's perspective. Of course, you do want to get engineering done on that to make sure it's going to meet the engineering that you need for your area. But that's not really important for us right now. So I do find that interesting. 16-inch subfloor. So we'll probably end up redesigning those stairs a little bit from what they call out here. So that the length of the stairs there might end up being a little longer or a little shorter. If they're going with a 16-inch subfloor, then I'm guessing it's going to be one step shorter, possibly, which is fine. If it works out that way, so be it. So now we got our stairs basically in place for where they will be. Now they show a door here at the bottom, and then the wall kind of does a little bump out thing here at the bottom, right? Do we need to do that? Not necessarily. Oh, and this actually, so their stairs, the reason they have that is because they actually have a landing down here and then one more step. I can see that now. It's not immediately obvious because of all, this is kind of a busy area on the plans, and they're just lines, so it's a little tough to see. But they do in fact have this as a landing and then one more step here coming out, and that's why this turns. And I'm guessing this is probably just going to be your stairway railing, instead of just a full wall, although you could do it as a full wall, of course. So the real question is, do we want to do that? We might. So I'm just going to leave it like this for right now though, and we'll figure all that out later. Okay, so now the next step is we need to figure out our layout. We essentially have the stairs in place. Okay, let me think about this for a second, and I'll be right back with kind of what I've come up with, and we will see how it works out. Okay. So I think I've more or less figured out what I want to do here. We are going to have a couple load-bearing walls in a few, in order to accommodate the floor joists, right? And I think for the load-bearing walls, I'm actually going to just go ahead and frame them with 2x6. 2x4 should be just fine as well. But I do like to have 2x6 in there, and we might need it for some plumbing anyways in a couple places. Well, let me think about that. Do we want to go 2x6? I think I would. I think I would. So we're gonna, this wall here is gonna be a load-bearing wall, and I am gonna continue it all the way down. So I'm gonna go ahead and extend this out to a 5.5 inch instead of 3.5 inch. So that's a 2x6 wall there. Let's start up here in this corner real quick. basically I'm going to do what I was talking about before. We're going to make a bathroom here in the corner because you have the bathroom up above that has plumbing coming straight down from there. So you're going to be able to easily put a bathroom in right here. And then I think for the other side, well, first of all, I think what I'm going to do is just continue this wall straight out. So what I want to do, bring this out. We're going to bring it straight to there. Although we will also have the interior framing. Do I want to go a little bit further? That's what I'm wondering. Because we're going to have our gap. If we go 2 inches of foam board, or do I just go with a 1-inch foam board? I think 2 inches works best for a basement. So, yeah, I could put it here. Let's just go ahead and put it here, though. I may end up moving it further down the road, but let's go ahead and put it there. And then I'm going to come out 5.5 inches because, again, this is going to be a load-bearing wall, so that now my spans are much more manageable. So the span for this room here, or from one load-bearing wall to the other, you end up with 15.5. Now, we'll look it up in a minute. I'll show you how we double check this when we design our floor joists. But I think 15, if I remember right, just off the top of my head, I believe 15 foot is going to work okay for our 12-inch joists. And then we also have these shorter spans in here, so that's like 5.5 feet. And then the stairs, obviously, we already know is about 4 feet. So yeah, I kind of like that. Let's go with that. I think I'm going to go ahead and build that wall across. So what I'm going to do is pull out the rectangle tool. It's basically the same thing as a line tool, but it will go ahead and build an entire rectangle for you instead of just one line. So what you do is pull the rectangle tool out with R. You can press R or grab it over here on the side. And then you're going to start in one corner. So that's going to be one corner of our wall. So I'm going to click, and then it's going to start making a rectangle, right? I can make this rectangle any size I want. Because I already have these reference points on here, I can just go ahead and drag it all the way out to where it meets the other corners of the wall there. Click again, and it's going to create the rectangle. So now I have a rectangle there. I can use the push-pull tool by pressing P, and you can see it's going to grab that and pull it up. Now, for purposes of designing this, I think what we really want to do is go just like 12 inches for now, right? We'll do all of our walls 12 inches high. These are not going to stay in place. We're going to replace these with actual framing. But for the purposes of figuring out the layout, I want to go ahead and do this so that we know what our layout is at least. And that way we can finish doing the interior footings and all that. So now we have that wall done. Let me go ahead and triple click on that, make group. You triple click, then right click, and then select make group. I covered that a little bit last time as well. Now this side, this half is going to be the bathroom, and this side's going to be just a storage closet, I think, because our depth is only going to be, what is that? What did I say? Like 5.5 feet, right? So fine for a bathroom, not much good for anything else other than a storage area, a closet, that sort of thing, right? So we will have a wall dividing these two. I don't know yet. Let me think. I don't know where our plumbing is going to be per se, but we do already have this 2x6 wall here. So I'm thinking we're going to put all of our plumbing in this wall here. So this wall coming out could be just a 2x4 wall that separates these two areas. How far I want to come out, that's, you know, however big you want your bathroom to be and however big you want your closet to be, essentially. So this storage closet is just going to be for the main game room area. It's not a bedroom closet. But because of that, I want it to be nice and big walk-in closet so you have lots of storage, right? So I think let's just bring this out 10 foot. And actually that's going to come out 10 foot, 3.5 for a 2x4 wall on the exterior. And then also the 2 inches. So we want to go 5.5. So let's go 5.5. So 10 foot, 5.5 puts us there. And actually I want to move that. I do want to account for that. I'm trying to make the bathroom exactly 10 foot once it's finished. So we also need to account for drywall. So let's move this over 1 more inch. That should give us 10 foot, 6.5 from the foundation wall to there. So that should be right. Let's go ahead and come over. Like I said, it's going to be a 2x4 wall for the interior wall there. So we'll just do that. And then again, I'll use the rectangle tool by hitting R. We'll click onto that corner there, bring it down to this corner, and then P to push pull. And we're just going to match the height of that one, which was 12 inches. Triple click on it, right click, make group. Okay. So that's going to be, and we can always move that if we decide we need a little more room or a little less room in the bathroom later on. But for now, that's going to be the basic layout of it. Now, at this point, I don't need these reference marks anymore. That one is for the landing at the bottom of the stairs. I'll leave that one for now, but I don't need these ones, so we can get rid of those. Let's go ahead, and I know this is going to be a wall going all the way across, so let's go ahead and build that. We're going to hit R for the rectangle tool again. We're going to hit that corner right there, because that's going to be the corner of our wall at the end, and drag, and we're going to bring it all the way to the other end. Click again, P for push pull. We're going to pull that up 12 inches and then make that a group. Okay, so now we got that wall done. I guess I can go ahead and do this here. That's where we think it's going to be, the wall for the end of the stairs. So let's just go ahead and do that. Make group. Okay, and we'll just leave it at that. The rest of this down here, I'm not gonna worry about any of that right now. We're just gonna leave it open, and then I'll figure out the stairs and the landing and everything when we do the stair framing later. So now, click out here. We can go ahead and get rid of those. We can get rid of those reference lines, and I guess I really don't need this reference line anymore either. Okay, so that cleans things up a lot. So now we got the rest of the space that we want to figure out what we're doing with, right? So my idea was we come down the stairs, we're in a big open game room area here, right? You got a bathroom over here in the corner, which will have a door facing out into the game room. So we might actually change that by adding a little hallway right here with the door going into the bathroom from here, from in a hallway. Usually that's the better way to do it. It would be slightly more expensive to build it that way because you're using a little bit more materials and a little bit more labor. But it's going to be very minimal. The only issue there is that you will have to leave a beam going across the opening of the hallway in order to support the floor joist above, because we are using this wall as a support wall. So that is something we'd have to consider. I'll consider that later. This is really going to be just like a powder bath. I probably will design it with a tub and shower combo in there, just because of how much space we have. But I don't expect this bathroom to be the main bathroom that's used typically. And I'm going to put a bathroom in down here at the other end of the floor plan as well. So I don't know, maybe having the door coming straight out into the game room area is not the worst thing. You guys let me know in the comments. How would you put the little hallway in here, and then the bathroom off to the side, so that the entry into the bathroom's kind of hidden, tucked away from the main living space? That's typically how you would want to design these floor plans, right? I'm going to leave it like that for now, though. So let's move on. So this main open area, this living space, the game room, whatever you want to call it, entertainment room, is going to be, it's not really the entertainment room, we'll do that in a minute, but it's going to come all the way down to about right here, right? My thought was we will finish the wall there. So let's go ahead and mark that. We'll just continue what the foundation wall already was giving us. This is going to be a 2x4 wall, so we'll come over 3.5 and R for rectangle. I need to figure out how far out that's coming first. So our hallway here, I want to do a 4-foot wide hall, because you are going to be moving furniture through this hallway for the bedrooms that are going to be in this back section of the basement. You want to make sure you have plenty of space there. So let's go ahead and come out 4'1". The 4'1" is going to, did I hit spacebar? I accidentally hit spacebar. The 4'1" is going to allow for the drywall and still give you 4 feet of clearance from side to side, right, for the width of the hallway. So let's go 4'1". I also could have just typed 49 inches. Either way works. And then this wall is not load bearing. So again, we're just going to go 3.5 inches for that. I was thinking this room would essentially just come all the way down to, again, the end of the wall there. So let's bring it to there and then bring this back 3.5. Okay, let me think about that for a second. I'll be right back. Okay, so I think that's more or less where it's going to be, but we may move that wall back just a little bit to make this hallway here that turns the corner a little bit wider, and I'll show you why. So the important thing that we want to get in the layout first is usually where our plumbing is going to be, right? So in this case, for the basement, we need to figure out our bathrooms. Now, we already know one bathroom is going to be up here, and we know the other bathroom's going to be over here in this general area. I think what we'll do is essentially just copy the bathroom from up above, because it's really not a bad little plan there. Yeah, so we'll just go like 6 foot wide, and then we'll have closet on each side, bedroom, bedroom. I think we're going to copy this wing of the house essentially from the main floor straight down to the bottom floor. We'll just have hallway, bathroom, closet, closet, bedroom, bedroom. The closets are nice for separating the bathroom from the bedrooms because they buffer the noise, which is really a big plus when you have bathroom right next to the bedroom. So you want to buffer that a little bit. So I like having the closet built in right between there. And that bathroom is going to be plenty big enough for a basement bathroom. So let's go ahead and go with that. It's going to be 6 feet, and then we need to come out. How far does that go? 8 foot from that wall, and then we added the 2 feet there, so 10 feet. So it's going to be a 10 by 6, and okay, so 10 by 6. That's exterior dimensions. We could alter that a little bit. So they have load-bearing wall there. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll probably do, I think 10 by 6 is probably about right. So 10 minus the 8 inches for the foundation wall, because they are measuring from the exterior of the foundation wall, right? If we go to our 2 foot out, 2 foot out comes to the exterior. Yep. Okay. So what did I say? 10 feet minus the 8 inches. That's going to put you at 9'4". So we're going to come over 9'4". Where does, I did the wrong, sorry, hit the wrong key. 9'4". Okay. That brings us over to about there. It's not bad. And that looks like that takes us to the center of that wall there. Actually, the way they have it on here. It's a little bit odd to measure to the center of the wall. But okay. We can do whatever we want, of course. So not a big deal there. Although we do want to leave room for the hallway to get into there. That's interesting. How does that not fit down here, but it fits on the main floor? I have no idea. You know what? Let's change that. So I'm going to take that, delete it. We're going to instead, I think I want to measure off of this wall. So we want our hallway to be, let's go 36 in this direction, because I don't want to encroach too much on the bathroom. And then what I'm going to do is move these 2 lines over another foot. Whoops. No, I want to move them over 13 inches. So that our total width of the hallway there will be just like the other section. It'll be 4'1". Perfect. Okay, so now we have that, and that still leaves us with a 3 foot opening for a door to go into the bedroom up here, right? 3 feet, plenty of opening for the rough opening for the doorway. So we got 3.5 inches for a 2x4 wall there. Yeah, okay. And then let's see. The bedrooms, how big were the rooms? So they're basically doing a 12 by, what is it, like 11 and a half? 12 by 11 and a half room. Okay. So let's go ahead and keep that wall where it is. Up here, we need to go 11.5 this way. So we'll just do 11.5 feet. And then what if we do 5.5? Oh, do I want to do 5.5 off that one? I don't know. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So that leaves us with the bathroom width, 9 foot. 9 by 7.5, basically. That's not too bad. 9 by 7.5. So we should be able to do like a 2-foot closet, linen closet, and then have the shower, and then we'll do a vanity and toilet on the other wall. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that works. And then of course we're gonna have to have our closets in here. So let's go 24 inches for the closet. Actually, sorry, 25 inches because you got to include drywall. So we'll go 25 inches and then 2x4 wall, so 3.5 inches there. And what about this one over here? I do want a closet there to separate the bedroom from the bathroom. So the other thing is I'm trying not to put the load-bearing walls where the closet door is going to be. I'd rather have that as the wall that separates the bathroom from... Maybe I'll move that then. I think that's pretty good though. So let's go ahead and go with that. I'm going to go ahead and design this out. So we'll use our rectangle tool again. And we're going to do a 2x6 wall there. Push pull that out 12 inches. Make that a group. Okay. And then we had 2x4 wall here. And that's going to come out to here. And we'll make that 12 inches. Make that a group. Okay, rectangle tool again. We'll do this wall here. So I'm just going to try and get most of these walls in place now. So we can really see the layout. It was not letting me go over to this one, so I just came over here and clicked on that to get it 12 inches. Make that a group. And then we have this wall coming across here. Let's go ahead and pull that up 12 inches. Make group. Okay, and then we have the bathroom wall here, separating it from the hallway. So let's go ahead and do that. Make that 12 inches and make that a group. Okay, so right now you're looking at bedroom, bathroom, probably a media room is what I'm thinking. Because you're not really gonna have any windows in this wall. It's gonna be a nice dark room. I feel like that would make a good media room. Let me know, what would you do with that space right in the middle of the basement? I think an excellent, theater room, media room, gaming room, like video games, whatever for the kids, that kind of thing. Great room for that. It's right next to the game room, but it's separated so you won't have the noise. I think that's a good spot for it. So let's go with that. And then down here for this bottom section, this is the last area we need to design essentially. Well, let's see. So we have the closets. Do I go ahead and put the closets in now? It's kind of a funky, what is our space here with that closet in like that? So it's only 9 foot 1.5. It's a little bit of a smaller room, especially because we haven't built in. So because this is a basement, we're actually going to have 5.5 inches off of all these walls. So it's going to be like this. 5.5, and that's because we're gonna have 2x4 framing there, but you're also gonna have a 2 inches of foam board that's behind the 2x4 framing. So total, you have 3.5 inches plus the 2 inches of foam board, 5.5 inches. So that's why I'm coming out from all these walls 5.5 inches, essentially to represent where the finished interior walls are going to be along all of those exterior walls. Yep. So not a big room by any means. If I could fit the closet in somewhere else, that would be really nice. But like I was saying before, I do like having the closet there to separate the bathroom from the bedroom. Can we... I'll have to think about that. We may change that a little bit. But anyways, down here, I want to make this into 2 rooms, basically. I want one room here and another bedroom here. So let's go to here, and then this comes back 3.5 because we have a 2x4 framed wall there. So we're going to make this into one big rectangle of a room, bedroom here on the right. Make that a group. So we got this as a room, and then this will be a room, so we need a divider in between there. Now, should we just simply divide the rooms in half? What's our total measurement here to that? Because this is where our interior wall is going to be, right? As I was just explaining. So we have 30 foot, 6.5 inches to that point. So we could go 15, 3.25 would be our center. 15 foot, 3.25. So that's our center line. Now the closets, I was already saying I'd like to put a closet up here to separate bathroom from the bedroom. So if we put a closet there, that takes care of this bedroom's closet. This bedroom would still need a closet. Now we could either make this space over here the closet for the bedroom, or we could add a closet maybe separate along the separation wall between the 2 bedrooms and use this as a storage space off of the main game room again. So another walk-in closet area here for storage. So you'd have storage space up here and storage space down here. I like having lots of storage space. Okay, I certainly make use of it. I'm a little bit of a pack rat sometimes, so I like having extra storage space. I assume most people do. I don't know that you need a giant walk-in closet like that for this bedroom, which will essentially be a guest bedroom or maybe even an office or something, right? Because you're going to have a lot of bedrooms here in this house. Yeah, it's really hard to say. I do like the idea of using all the space under the stairs as well as a continuation of this storage space if we can. So we may not put a wall right here. It may just have the stairs going up and then you have storage space under the stairs, right? So maybe we want to actually delete that wall and get rid of that. And we just leave it over. I'll just leave it there for now. Actually, I think that's fine. So let's leave this as another storage closet, and let's actually put a closet in over here for this bedroom. So the way I want to do that, it's going to be a 2 foot wide closet, 25 inches actually, on the interior space for the framing. So do I want to cut that into which bedroom, or do I want to center it? We're already going to have a cut in this bedroom for a closet there. So I'm thinking we cut that 2 feet into this room. So if we do that, let's come off this line. We'll build the wall this way, so 3.5 that way. And then from there, we're going to come over 25. And then another 3.5 there. I think that works. What does that give us for interior dimensions? So the bedroom will be a 12 foot 10.75. So basically 12 foot 10 by about 10 feet, because you got to come out 5.5 on this wall for that framing, like I was saying. That's a pretty good size room. And then over here, you have 14 feet long by, again, the same distance, except that, so 10 feet, except that we're going to take 2 feet off of that for the closet in half of the room over here. I think that's going to work okay. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and put the closet in right there. We'll come 25 and then 3.5. Okay, we got a lot of lines on there right now. Let's do some walls real quick, and then we can call this good. So I'm going to do this. Technically only needs to go to right there, I guess. So let's do that. I'll have to go back and change the other ones later to make room for that exterior wall. But yeah, we'll worry about that in a minute. Make group, and then the wall right here for the closet. Okay. Make that a group. I also could have just copied this one and dragged it over. That would have also worked. Okay, and then let's do these ones. Make that a group. I'm gonna go ahead and do, oh, that's not what I wanted. Do this one here. Make that a group, and oh, I was gonna do this closet up here as well. Okay, and then right here. Make that a group. Okay, there we go. So that is more or less what I think I want to use as the layout for a basement. Do I need any of these reference lines anymore? I do need some of them for the exterior walls. We have not put those in just yet. Okay. Yeah, I say let's leave it like that for now. Well, I could go ahead and take out some of these lines. So we could delete those. We can remove these ones. We can remove those ones. Definitely can take those ones out. We can also take these ones out. Actually, let's just... Should I just remove all of them? We can put the reference lines back in for the... Well, no. That'll save me time later if I don't do it. So let's go ahead and take that out, take that out, take that out. So we should be now pretty much just left with our exterior wall markers. Reference lines. Looks like it. Okay, so I think we're good there. Yeah. That's not bad. So we have progress. We have more or less figured out kind of the layout for the basement. We still might fine tune it a little bit, but I think our dimensions are pretty good, right? For like a media room, let's do, so yeah, 10-foot wide for a media room. And then we'll probably put a closet in here because you kind of need a closet for a media room as well. But then it's going to be 20 feet long. So 20 by 10, that's a good size for a media room, right? So I think we'll go with that. It's really going to be about 18 by 10 because we're going to add a 2-foot deep closet probably somewhere over here. Now, the smallest room that we have obviously is this one back here in the corner. The key here is we want to make sure it's still going to meet code for a bedroom as far as size. So 8'8" by 9'11". So yep, that should meet code. Code basically says you cannot be less than, I believe it's just 7 feet in any direction. It might be like 7.5 feet or something. Basically, rule of thumb for me, as long as you're not less than 8 feet for any dimension of the room, the main area of the room, then you're good, right? But there are usually, most areas have some sort of minimum size requirements for a bedroom. So make sure you're aware of what those are for your area and make sure you're designing to those specifications. Otherwise, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. We covered a lot. We fixed the foundation, got that all set to where we wanted it more or less by doing the little alcove for the back patio deck area, and then also fixing the height of the foundation to where it will fit pre-cut studs, or it should fit pre-cut studs for all this basement framing. And then we also worked on our layout for the basement. So this is a big step because once we know what our layout is more or less for the basement, we can go ahead and design our floor system above because we know where our load-bearing walls will be. And we can go ahead and design our interior footings for the load-bearing walls under the slab. So we'll take care of that next time, along with finishing all the layout stuff. If there's anything else, I'm not sure there's really anything else to do as far as actual layout. When we get around to actual framing, that's when we'll come in and we'll actually frame all these different walls. So now that I think about that, we really don't need these lines right now, and we're not going to need them anytime soon because we're not close to doing framing yet. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those. And then, yeah, I think that's going to do it, guys. I hope you're finding this helpful. Using SketchUp to plan these builds ahead of time and to build them virtually before you go and build them for real is a huge help. I have found, at least, as far as planning, budgeting, and looking for things that are going to cause complications for you further down the road, right? I like to know what issues I'm going to be facing as far ahead of time as possible. And this really helps with that. So SketchUp, easy program to use, not that complex. It's pretty user-friendly and easy to pick up and learn. I highly recommend it for anybody who's building houses. It's a huge help. So let me know if you have any questions, anything that I maybe breezed over that you would like more detail on, or you were a little confused on how I did something. Please let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next time when we'll continue this simple farmhouse build. Till then, have a good one.